to order. We're off to a great start. If you would join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Up next is adopting our agenda as presented. Are there any additions or revisions to the agenda?
There are none.
Do we have a motion to adopt the agenda?
I make a motion that we adopt the agenda.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. On to information and proposals. First up is the presentation on our winter benchmark data.
Mr. Derby also can help me out with this as we kind of go through. Trustees, you would have received a handout in addition to an email that I sent earlier today. Just gonna get the mic a little bit closer, and I will project that here momentarily. So over the last week and a half, the principals, instructional facilitators, myself and Mr. Derby went through 3 times a year what we refer to as our winter or our benchmark meetings. We do these meetings in the fall, winter, and spring, where we utilize data from our benchmark assessments, which at the elementary level, kindergarten through 6th grade in some buildings, and kindergarten through 5th in other buildings, Ames Web data. So as parents, you may have heard teachers referencing this data and information that we use to assess students in the area of literacy and mathematics 3 times a year. And then we take that data and have sessions with the principals and discuss that information right down to the student level and a classroom level to discuss our goals that we have set, along with any information that we feel that might be helpful for that building regarding professional development, regarding students assistance teams, regarding MTSS and all of those. So the information that I'm going to be sharing this evening is the district Ames Web data. And so as you can kind of see, and I'm going to see if I can make that a little bit bigger. See if this works. Okay, so you'll see the graph, and this is kindergarten literacy for the district, and this is Ames Web, and the dark solid line is the district. So on the left, it's total early literacy composite. So this is the score indicated up to 100 of the composite, and this is an average of the district. You'll notice that there's a dotted line, which is the national trend line, and then there's our district. As you can see, this fall, when we completed the benchmark for kindergarten, we were just slightly below the national average. Then when we go back to the winter norm, you can see the norm for the national goes up to just over 60, and where district-wide, we are now just currently under 80, which is a significant increase over the national norm. That's what we want to see, is that increase. You can see there in kindergarten. I'm going to go down to 1st grade. In 1st grade, you can see we started slightly above the national average and have actually increased our difference from the national trend line. So we're far exceeding the national trend in 1st grade. In 2nd grade, you can see we started again slightly above the national average and maintained that trajectory and have over the national average at the 2nd grade level. In 3rd grade, you can see that that trend has increased, and so we've increased that variance from the national average, where we actually started again above the national average this fall. 4th grade, we also again were significantly higher than the national average in 4th grade and increased that difference from the national average. and then finally in 5th grade. And you can see again, we've increased that over the national average. This was an interesting benchmark time. Ames Webb in the area of literacy renormed their assessments. And so our percentages of students, which we refer to as proficient, which when we use the Ames Webb tool, we have determined that proficiency, just like on the Y-top, is the 40th percentile and above. So where we were seeing typically, and I'll just go to that. I won't probably bring it up because it does have some information there. Where we were seeing scores in the fall area around 50% or 60% of our kids above the 40th percentile. After that renorming in certain grade levels, we saw dramatic increases. And so we've been still comparing previous year's data, but it has created some different kind of interesting conversations. You'll remember probably in recent years where board members, I had you sign congratulatory notes for teachers meeting the 10% growth, where our goal was students, more than 10% of students would reach that proficiency than the previous assessment period. And then we would try to get there. And there, if I go to percentages on reading there, last year in the spring of 25, we had 78% of our teachers reach that goal. Now this year in the fall, as a district, we started the highest level of proficiency that we've ever had as a district. Over 70% of our kids were proficient in the fall, which that's been something drastically different, because if you just go back to the previous year, only 47% of our students. So we have to watch that renorming piece, because as you renormed and on the national average, scores decreased on the national average, which then obviously makes it a little bit easier for our students to achieve proficiency on a renorm. So when you're starting off with 70% of your kids already at proficient, having that growth is much more difficult because you have a lot smaller N value. So let's say in previous years, we had 12 of our kids in the fall not reaching proficiency. So getting 10% of 12 was a little bit easier. When you reduce that now down to 6 students in your classroom that are not proficient, that becomes a little bit harder to reach that 10% goal. So when you look at my charts, the colors, which I indicate by green of achievement on goals, there's not as many green as there are in years past. But the interesting piece is we're significantly higher than we were in the area of proficiency on our achievement data. And so we finished the year or in this winter with just about 80% of our students now proficient in the area of literacy as a district. And so significant numbers, something to be very proud of. And then when we go back to this chart, you can see in every grade level, we're exceeding the national average, which is pretty exciting and shows the hard work that our teachers and students are working on throughout the classrooms at every grade level, because we're exceeding that national norm. So I wanted to kind of just bring that attention to our district benchmark assessments and some of the work that our teachers were doing, and pretty proud of what we saw this winter. Mr. Derby, would there be anything else that you would want to add to that? Nothing? I covered it all. I got it all. How about any questions from any board members regarding Ames Webb assessment? I didn't want to go into sharing all the data that we talked about, because in addition to literacy, we talk about math. In addition to K through 5, which I showed this evening, we also discuss STAR assessment on 6 through 12, and we have similar goals set up for that and similar percentages. So that's something we work on also.
Mr. Kramer, is there a link or a correlation to, can you look back and see, since we instituted OG as part of teaching literacy to this?
Definitely. When we look at the average proficiency. And then what I've done is take off this fall, because right now we're sitting in an anomaly because of the renorming. And so that's going to be something that we'll have to take a look at when we get to the spring. But there's definitive evidence, because spring last year, we were at 75% proficiency. When you go back, that far exceeds where we started. When we started in spring of 2021, we were at 64%, which might not seem like a huge number, but when we look at a district total, it's very easy when you start off with that, again, lower N, to make big jumps. When we're looking at a district as a whole, you're adding our total number of students at the elementary, and to make that significant of a percentage increase on the number of kids proficient using those same norms, that's pretty significant.
Mr. Kramer, could you explain to me maybe a little bit about what exactly is renorming? How does that work?
Yep, no, that's a great question. So you'll see it a lot when we change assessments. So right now, let's say we take a 10-year average and we have released items on the Y-top. And so every year they're changing questions and things. And each one of those questions has to be normed. So you take 100 students, and the ideal is the bell curve. 50% of them get it correct, 50% get it incorrect. That's a perfect bell curve trajectory. So after a while, when we've been increasing our achievement, kids start understanding more of the assessment. So your your average becomes, oh, now 70% of those kids are getting that question correct. That's not really a typical well-normed assessment. Or in the case of Ames Web nationally, because of scores coming out of different schools where there was a deficit in literacy instruction and students weren't achieving at that high level. So there were, let's say, instead of having 50 get it correct, there were only 20 students getting it correct now. That again needs to be normed to get it back in that middle on a bell-shaped curve on a standardized assessment. There comes with a lot of challenges when you start comparing norms, especially in standardized assessments. So for instance, on the Y-top, if we start comparing an assessment score that you had in 2025 to where it was previously normed in 2010, that score would be drastically different because of the number of questions that are different from that time period to the next. So in education, it gets real tough when you renorm something to make comparisons past that previous year. You kind of take it with a grain of salt in either direction. There's a lot of times where the norming can drastically decrease scores. We're seeing that with ACT right now. ACT took a drastic change. They have shifted the number of questions that they're going to release. So our students took the ACT this fall. They took it on the old version. In the spring, they're going to take it on this new version of ACT. They're saying that there is strong comparability in those scores. I'll be very interested to see if that's true. Because whenever you make any change to the way you score or your average, you're going to have a standard deviation in there to where everything isn't as perfect, or comparability. You're in essence comparing apples to oranges in some ways. And so that's where it gets a little bit more challenging on those norms when we're trying to maintain that consistency. Sometimes norms can be straight on. There can be a renorming and there isn't that drastic of a difference. But in education, especially when we're talking about standardized assessments, it's always important to look at multiple tools. Ames Web, one tool. We make decisions based on some of the data, but we don't make drastic decisions on just one tool. In these meetings, we also talk about two other assessments, Mr. Derby, the OG assessment, Ames Web, and Kilpatrick or Hagerty, which is our other assessments on literacy. And so we're making instructional decisions based on all of those assessments, not just a singular score for Ames Web and drastically shifting one way or the other, because sometimes assessments can have flaws in them, and sometimes it can be really accurate and really strong, but you don't really know on a year by year basis because a lot of changes take place in how they market them and how they try to achieve the best scientific validity in those assessments also. It's not a perfect science, unfortunately. That was a long-winded answer to your question, so I hope that made sense.
One other thing I might add to it, just at a real quick glance, I looked at the before this year, the last time that this was renormed, and it was in 2018, so pre-COVID. And so that's probably why we saw some of the, I guess you would say, the shift, it being easier to achieve proficiency, because I think of some of the effects that we've all seen from, you know, kids missing school for some of that time post-COVID. So.
Superintendent Kramer?
Yes.
I'm probably showing my disability to understand some of this, but the scale is different on each one of these grade levels. And so for my benefit, and for nobody else's, could you sort of let me know why that is?
No, that's a great, I saw that and I thought about that same thing. So I'm glad that you actually asked it. So you'll look on this. This is not based on, in some cases, looking at the graph is very important, just like it is here, because you'll see sometimes you'd think, if I just looked at the numbers here, oh, that's based on percents.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's 10, 90. When you look in that far left corner, it's the composite score. And so you'll see.
So it's a score.
Yep, it's the score.
Okay, that's
Exactly.
what I needed
And
to
so as you
know.
move up, the average score for first grade starts at 70 for the national. And you'll notice up here is where that trajectory goes. In the spring, that could be, you know, the average might end up at 80. And then they have a slight decline there over the summer. But those are the scores rather than a percentage on what it has. And that score, as we progress up, you'll see fifth grade as we get up into the 500s for their score. Thank you for that question.
And my other question is, and I think you probably may have answered it, do 100% of our students take this?
Yes.
For their appropriate grade?
Yep. No,
Okay.
thank you for asking that also. All students, even students with an IEP, individualized education plan, all students take our benchmark assessments.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further questions? All right, up next are committee reports by our board members. First is the district policy committee. Trustee Sharp, would you like to take that one?
I'd be happy to.
Thank you.
We met last week, a week from today, and we looked at 4 policies. They're all 4 policies are here. The policy 3150 is advertising in schools, and it's here for a second and final reading. Policy number 3145 is public solicitation and advertising. It's here for its first reading, and it's being renumbered and renamed. So I'm sure everyone had a chance to look at that. Policy 9351 is for authorized signatures and check writing. It's on its first reading. And policy number 5105, in addition to its extra forms like application and stuff, is being looked at as student representatives to the school board, and it is being recommended to be rescinded along with its accompanying documentation. So they're all here in the school packet.
Thank you. The next committee report is from DAC. We do this every month.
Well, I'm doing a little bit by memory because my notes are laying on my desk. I know we did go over the middle school girls wrestling again. I think the biggest problem we're having is finding enough room for all the practices with all the different grades. And so that is something is a constant battle.
I add something to that that you are not aware of as since that last meeting has taken place. We're very fortunate enough. Blowdorn of Torrington allowed us to use their space, and so the middle school girls wrestling team has been practicing in that space. So we're very appreciative of their help with that, and we have addressed the issue of space for girls wrestling. So I wanted to add that. So thank you, Mr.
Yep.
Alexander.
And I know we were talking about the sportsmanship summit that we started last year and this upcoming year, and just trying to improve on what was already a good thing and getting a lot of people involved. And just trying to see if we, Mr. Van Tilburg and a couple of our other coaches did put a lot of work into it, and it is a lot of work to get it all set up. So maybe to get some more help with them doing that. So I know they're working on that. And that's the majority of what I remember we were discussing.
It was a month ago. Thank you, trustee Alexander.
Is that something that the trustees could help with? Volunteer
For
helping with the summit?
I'm sure Mr. Van Tilburg would be happy with any and all volunteers. And actually, we did recruit one trustee last year to be a speaker. So I think that adds to our list of options that we can have for next year.
Thank you. We do not have any submissions for public comment this evening. So next up is our superintendent's report.
I will go into sharing again. Maybe. So as usual, I'll be sharing our enrollment data. Slow. No color indicates no change from the previous month. Column G is November. Column F is the December ADM average. You can see the green for indicating for each school. We did have slight increases at a number of schools in the area of ADM from November to December. Then I want to go into the total for the district. We did have just a slight decline at Trail Elementary from 236.21 to 236, so very minimal change and slight increases. Overall, the grand total, 1,562.35 for the month of December compared to 1,557 in the month of November. I did a comparison. You'll see this -19. This is a comparison from the previous year, as you can see there. Currently, and I'll talk about this a little bit on what is upcoming with recalibration. You may hear that one of the proposals for the recalibration committee is to move away from the 3-year average. And I kind of wanted to just demonstrate what that would mean for Goshen County if that were to occur in the upcoming session. Quite honestly, it's not as significant this year as it might be in other years, but it's good to always get an analysis of it. So right now we're looking at -19 when you compare the previous year. So we're down 19 students. If you look at the 3-year average, so the 3-year average of the 3 previous years is 1,607. Where we're at right now is 1,584. So a negative 22.8 ADM, which roughly translates, when we look at that, when we estimate it, we kind of use the number 17,000 per pupil or per ADM in regards to funding. So this would be a reduction of about 374,000 in the overall budget for ADM purposes for students under just the ADM portion of our funding model. And so there's a change there. I'm also going to stop sharing this and then go into something that you as board members are able to access. Let's see if I can. Figured out a shortcut, Mike, on the sharing on Teams. I'm kind of excited about this now. You would have received this afternoon, the Wyoming School Board Association's Leaders Digest and School Finance Recalibration. There are some really good documents here as you click on these to give yourself an update in regards to what recalibration is and how it can affect Goshen County schools. I'm just going to quickly go to one of the documents here, if I can. And this is one of those documents, the K through 12 Education Resource Block Model Comparisons. It starts off with some of the presentation contents that will be discussed as we go through the January 22nd and 23rd meeting. This model, or this chart right here, gives a really good, quick analysis of some of the comparisons. So right now, you'll notice the components of the model, student counts, ADM, which I discussed. So you'll notice in the, I'm forgetting the acronym here, evidence-based model for the work that was done is the recommendation to the select committee. So out of that evidence-based model comes the greater of district prior year or the 3-year average is what is being suggested to the select committee. Oh, I had that wrong. That's where we're at today. Thank you. And so the select committee is the recommendation for where they would be. So it'd be the prior year. And so when I discussed on that, the discussion between the difference between 19 and the 22, that 3-year average is that 22, that difference is the 19. So where we're currently at right now, that's not a drastic change for us. In other years, that could be a drastic change because as you've gone, and this is what's been interesting as I've learned, is that in the previous work on recalibration, it was actually the committee that suggested going to the 3-year average when we were previously at the 1-year average because it takes away some of these peaks and valleys. I'll scroll down and I'll kind of show you why they want to go to that on the sheer economic level right now. One of the other pieces that I kind of want to just take a look at is the importance of where we have the block grant and where we have that categorical grant. We talked about that in September, where there was discussion on the legislature passing 8.5% salary increases for teachers and why that didn't translate into every district having an 8.5% increase on salaries for teachers. And we talked about categorical versus the block model and why that looked different from district to district. Here's where that piece comes into really clear to me evidence on why the continuation of the block model is really, really important. The suggestion coming from select committee is elementary counselors and funding should be continued to be studied in the 26th interim. The Goshen County School Board, and I don't know when, I have to assume quite a while ago, prioritized elementary counselors in our buildings and have been funding those outside of the block, outside of the model, using that block grant to say, no, we in Goshen County feel elementary counselors are really important. At the state level, you may disagree, which is perfectly fine, but it gives, by that block model, the opportunity for local boards to make decisions that affect their local communities, because our constituents said and have supported elementary counselors. If we move to a categorical funding model, those decisions would be made in Cheyenne and stated, as per the recommendation, no, we don't feel that elementary counselors should be funded. We should study it through the 2026 interim. I strongly I have significant concerns about moving to a categorical model and a one size fits all. There are very many districts in the state of Wyoming that have a lot of similarities to Goshen County School District. That there are pieces that we have some of the same needs, but there are an awful lot of differences between us and Sheridan and Jackson. And to say that we need the same things in all of those takes away the power of our local school boards to make those decisions. And I'm afraid that we're going to hear a lot more about moving away from block model to categorical funding. And I think that's a very slippery slope to be on. That yes, it does provide some clarity at the state level, but also takes a lot of influence that board members have in making decisions for their communities away. And that's just kind of one example. The same can be said for nurses in that same piece, where currently resourced 1 FTE per prototypical school. The select committee is saying, no, we need to study this in the 2026 interim. Goshen County has said, no, we have prioritized this, and these are funded and provided in our buildings currently. And so that's one of those things that we have to be very careful and watch. Another piece that I want to show, and that goes back to that 3-year average. So in this chart, you'll see the solid line here is the prior school year. And so you can see economically why in 2027 estimate, the difference between the model, which is the dotted red line, and the 3-year average, which is the dotted blue line, there's a significant variance there, all to the positive of providing fewer dollars to schools. So economically speaking, I understand why that, from the state perspective in spending, there would be a reduction. I understand why there. The piece that I want to focus on, though, also goes back to 2007. For how many years in a row, this would have been on the other side of that. That's a short-term solution. That is extremely short-sighted to me in thinking that this is something that we would want to pursue, because from 2007 all the way up to, for 10 years, the state would have been actually putting more dollars to schools, which is a positive in that model. But the idea for a 3-year average is to maintain that consistency so we're not jumping back and forth. And as we've kind of changed over the years, we know that our society has become more transient. We have seen more people move in and out of places than we ever have in our previous history. And so those variances are significant, as you can kind of spot here. And as you can see, we've had a significant decline. At some point in time, that will shift. And so how do we maintain that consistency? And as you can see through the 3-year average, there's not those peaks and valleys. And that consistency, especially in education funding and making those difficult decisions like you guys regularly have to do as board members, is really important. And so that visual kind of gives an idea of where and why I think they're looking at this to have that information. The last thing I want to talk about, and I briefly spoke about this on the radio last week, co-located schools funded as a single school. This would have an effect on Goshen County. Right now, our schools that are co-located, Southeast and Lingle, if co-located means if they're under the same roof, they would be funded as a single school. I understand the thought process in wanting to move in a direction to have co-located schools. The challenge I have goes back actually to this model here. If we, in 1 year, make a significant change in funding to those 2 buildings, we have to make drastic decisions in a very short period of time. I could support moving to co-located schools where we're identifying them as K through 12 buildings if there was a time period of implementation to where we don't have to make drastic decisions to a funding formula that changed overnight because of a situation in how we identify schools. That's not a good way of planning out FTE and those types of things. It's the same reasons that we look and have carryover and have safety nets in there to make sure we're not making these big jumps and having to make reductions. My concern is that it's just like we're going to make a quick decision and we're going to say, nope, they're under one roof. We're going to identify them as this, and they're going to have a significant reduction in funding in 1 year. That hurts kids, that hurts schools, and that makes it very difficult for boards to create consistency and superintendents to maintain a culture in which we want to support kids in education. So if we want to make those kinds of changes to where we feel we have misidentified schools for the past 30 years, I would say co-located schools on how the funding model.
You can say 1998.
1998 was when that designation occurred. I think we have to be very careful in making rash decisions that affect funding, especially to our smaller schools, that those changes have drastic effects. We've been able as a school district, because we have our 3 schools, been able to mitigate a lot of these significant changes. When you look at small school districts like Sheridan 3, and the effects that they have from just losing a few kids, we've been able to maintain a lot of consistency because of those partnerships across the district. If we have significant changes like that in 1 year, that hurts. That hurts significantly. And it's not a question about what group at the legislature you're from. We're planning as a board to invite our representatives and state senator to talk about some of these things, because it doesn't matter to me where those proposals come from. It really, to me, matters how is it going to affect our communities. I don't care which group anybody is from or which side that they partner with. Our legislatures need to know how drastic of an effect it will have locally for our kids, because there are some significant things in here that will help, because not all things are going to hurt school districts. I will not say that. There is some good work being done to help school districts, but there are some pieces in there that will drastically affect and impact negatively our school district if they were to be chosen to go through. And we'll talk a lot more about that in probably the next 30 or so days. The last item I wanted to talk about was recently we had our food service audit, and it was completed on December 8th. And I'm just going to actually, Marcy, if you want to just kind of talk briefly about that, and I want to make sure and have the right information, because it was a very positive audit as we received it.
Mr. Kramer, before I go to that, will you go to page, I think it's page 8 in here.
I should have asked you earlier if you had anything to add to this.
There's just one
yes.
thing in relation to benefits, well, maybe 2. I think most people have heard one of the directives is that all school district employees will go to the state insurance plan, of which, you know, there's a lot of different thoughts, but that's taking away the local control aspect of it. The other piece, and when Mr. Kramer talks about block grant and categorical grants, the recommendation in regard to retirement is that we would receive a portion of retirement, 15.91% of our employees, but it would be paid outside the block grant. And to me, this is a way of the legislature to micromanage the money that we're receiving, and that we would only receive this based upon the salaries that we paid. So the methodology of a block grant is that it be a formula, generate a pot of money that you as the board have the ability to spend, staff the district as you deem necessary. And this is taking that away, in that the people that are put in those positions have a salary, but this is only giving us the retirement. So it's saying that we're going to pay 15.91% of retirement, and we're going to then receive that back. So that can't be used for other purposes.
Thank you for that, Marcy. And I appreciate you going to this slide, because I did want to point this out. One thing that I think is really important to note, there are 48 school districts in the state. Currently, there is one school district in the state on the state plan. We have researched moving to the state plan recently. We had a committee that we established as a school district to look at our current health insurance and determine if there were better options out there. There are only 3 options in the state of Wyoming for school districts to choose. The state option was one of them. This would have increased our insurance costs significantly and then therefore affected our salary schedule. This is making a determination, one, that there would be significant savings by going into this larger pool, which has been disproved by the state plan themselves. They've said this will not save money. This will not save additional funds. They have said this in meetings. The challenge that I have is this is making an assumption that school districts have never even contemplated moving off their current insurance model, and this is the best plan currently for our employees, because it is. We as a committee had employee representatives, board representatives, HR director. We had presentations from each group outlining here are the costs in which you will have in regards to making this change. To me, this is a really scary situation where it sounds really good, but when you do the research, you realize very quickly it is not as it is laid out. And sometimes there's these holes that we go into. I don't love our insurance plan. I don't love the cost. I don't love all the things about it, but I do know out of our 3 choices, it is absolutely the best choice for our current salary schedule and for our current employees. And my concerns is that when we go to a state employee group, it will drastically impact our salary schedule for us to be able to maintain a positive budget. And when I say positive budget, I'm referring to a comfortable amount of carryover of funds from in our budget years. And so that's something I appreciate you mentioning that, because that's another one of those pieces that could have a significant effect for our district.
So as a question, how does it work? So these recommendations come out of the study or the consultants, right?
This, as I understand it, was not a recommendation from the company that they hired. This was a select committee. So this was committee members giving the directive that they price this. I don't believe that was a recommendation.
These items all are recommendations coming out of the recalibration committee, of which there was Picus and Auden, as well as Dr. Stoddard and several other consultants that each had their own specialty that they provided information to the committee on. What will happen is on the 22nd and 23rd, the committee will refine their recommendations and direct LSO to put together a draft bill. That they also will talk about how the legislature will evaluate and decision that bill, of which there are several different thoughts out there. One thought being that the current legislative session is not long enough for them to have time to adequately deal with the bill, and so there could be a separate session solely for recalibration. If that would happen, it would be much later and cause some hiccups for districts in regards to knowing what our available funds and budget might look like. So the 22nd, 23rd is when they'll start the process, but they won't make a decision until the legislative body as a whole has an opportunity.
And we'll be discussing many of these pieces right now. I mean, as you can see by the documents provided, there are a lot of pieces that will probably not make it and get narrowed down. So to try to quantify every single one is really a task we're not trying to do at this time, because it's just too big of a job for a lot of things that won't make it into that funnel. But as we kind of progress and get a better idea after the January 22nd and 23rd, what proposals will be coming out of that meeting, we'll get very much more particular in this item here. This is what it will specifically mean for Goshen County School District and how it'll affect kids.
So those meetings that we have been, that have come through, those meetings are an opportunity for, like, how do we have a say? How do we have our opportunity to let the legislators know what it is, how this is going to impact us?
Trustee Steinbach, I'm guessing you're referencing the professional judgment panel meetings, the 2-hour sessions this week. Those are the opportunity where Picus and Auden are going to be on the video conference, as well as those that have signed up. I plan to attend tomorrow. I think Mr. Kramer is going to attend on Thursday, but that is an opportunity where they will talk about these documents that are in that email coming from WSBA, or no, WSBA is that one. But that is an opportunity that any of these recommendations that you want to speak to, there also will be the opportunity for testimony on the 22nd and 23rd meetings.
And so if any trustees would have any interest in commenting and feel that they need to have a little bit more information, Marcia or myself would be glad to sit down with any trustees and have further conversations. If you see something in those handouts, explain this to me more. And obviously when I shared it, Marcy's filling in gaps that I have, and those things there's a lot of information. And it's really important. One of the other pieces that has come up is one of the proposals is to take out experience and education out of the salary schedule and out of the funding model. And that's a big piece right now. And a lot of discussion is occurring with superintendents, because a previous decision in Campbell 2 litigation specifically identifies in that litigation that there is a requirement to include experience and education in the funding model. And so there's that piece where something's not matching. We're either ignoring previous court decisions in how we're progressing, or we didn't understand what that decision might have been. And so those are the important questions that'll be coming out. I know at the PJP meeting today, that was brought up, and where Picus and Auden, which is who doing the presentations in these meetings this week, stated, this isn't necessarily something that is their responsibility. Their job isn't to necessarily review previous litigation. Their job is to just give presentations, and it's the select committee's job to determine, is this legal or not? So those type of conversations are regularly occurring. The meetings become very, very interesting, and how there's a lot of time where picking up little things becomes difficult, but the 22nd and 23rd meeting will be also very enlightening. I'm hoping to see which direction the select committee is going towards in regards to school funding.
Change for our ADM, like from the past.
Yeah, absolutely. Be glad to put that together. Yeah, it's kind of stark when you look back into the number of years and what we've had. Yeah. It's pretty significant. And I mean, and when I talk to different people too, of my age and the graduating classes at the different buildings, it's pretty significant changes that we've experienced in Goshen County. Any other questions?
Superintendent Kramer, yes. The other thing I was thinking is, we're looking at these ADMs. Is there a chance of looking at the birth rates in this for our county? I know we can get those at the state level.
The challenge that we've had is you can kind of get those trajectories off of what the proposed at the state level.
Yeah.
The local birth rate isn't necessarily
No,
as
it's not the
reflective
whole
of
thing.
it. But yeah.
But I believe there should be some type of a ability to get the the birth rates out of Nebraska as
In-
well for this county,
Yes,
because they're usually done by zip code.
and it's very, and I don't know what Wyoming has done in the past, if they provided that at the state level. Are you aware? I know in where I previous superintendency in Iowa, the state provided those forecasts also
Right,
for
but
us. And it was
Wyoming
typically done
Vital
on a,
Records Services would
Yeah.
do it in Wyoming.
yeah.
And,
We-
but it would give us an idea of how the birth rates are running to let us know what our expectations are, and if we're losing children to homeschooling and stuff,
Mhm.
is there some way that we could recruit them back in?
The challenge that we have was due to recent legislation this last year, where prior to this year, homeschool students were required to register with the
Right,
school
now
district.
we have no
That
idea.
we no longer have any idea what that number
Right, and
is.
that's where I'm looking at,
Yeah.
we can find that idea another spot, is what I'm,
Possibly, yes.
It-
Yeah, there'll be some
some.
pretty big variances there.
right.
Because of move in, move out. But yeah, it'll be very interesting to see how we're able to kind of, I think that was certainly not the intent of the legislation to do that, but that is a direct cause that the school districts are going to be struggling to quantify exactly what that looks like.
When we complete our annual facility plan with the school facilities department, they look at both past and projected enrollment data. And based on their data, we're on a pretty steady enrollment projection. But there again,
You can probably grab that information from them
Yeah.
and share that. That'd be fine.
I just know it's a significant difference from when I graduated. We had 130 some kids that were graduating. That didn't count the ones that didn't graduate. And I don't know what Chris's grade was, but we're half of that. And that was just for
Mhm.
Torrington.
Yep.
So that is a scary thing.
Any other questions? I will have Marcy share that piece on the food service audit, if she might, because I think that's some really good news.
Last year about this time, we were talking about the food service audit. We were blessed to have them come back the very next year. Ramona probably won't say that, but they redid their 3-year average and tried to kind of do it regionally, which brought them back for the very next year. Ramona again had a very positive review for Goshen County School District in the food service audit. They were scheduled to be here the 8th and the 9th. They were able to have everything done by the 8th and leave in one day. That was a result of the district getting things turned in advance and them being WDE and the food service department being able to complete information off site. We had no findings, and one of the items that was very positive is they had scheduled a exit interview with Mr. Kramer and I, as well as Ramona, for the following week. They were able to leave on the 8th, share with us that they had no findings and no recommendations for future follow-up. So very positive.
Thank you. Up next is old business. We are going to try to use our fancy new technology to vote again this evening. So when you place your vote, hit your screen as well. Item A is a tabled item from our last meeting, and it is our board committee appointments. The board chairwoman shared with me that all appointments will remain the same, with one addition to the Salary Relations Committee, which will be Trustee Strampy. Is that really echoey or is it my head? Go ahead, Trustee. Did you have a question? Hager? At the last meeting, Chairwoman Mueller asked everyone to reach out to her wanting to know what committees they wanted to be on. So you will have to take that up with Chairwoman Mueller when you see her again. I'm just passing along information. Item B is to consider approval of proposed new district policy 3150, advertising in schools as presented on the second and final reading. The recommendation is to approve the proposed new district policy as presented on second and final reading. Do we have a motion? A second? Any discussion?
I just have a quick question, and as I went back over my materials, I just got to thinking, what is considered promotional materials? Like, what are we talking about?
So the challenge that we had when we were talking about advertising was when we had the banners. And so Trustee Sharp received a question from businesses. Well, does that mean we're no longer going to have the ability to support the school through banners, which was they considered, and I completely understand, advertising. So what we looked at by changing it to promotional materials is these are the handouts that kids receive in their backpacks at schools that go home, but it's not necessarily the advertising that businesses are paying for. These are nonprofit organizations promoting different events within our community, but also wanting to make sure we have consistency across the board and everybody understands what falls under those, because there are certain areas we don't promote for-profit businesses by sending home materials, but we do things like for the pool, promoting when the opening is and different activities and such, or youth basketball or youth baseball. And so those are the materials that we're discussing and referring to. There's no perfect description that we could come up with, and that was the best one we could kind of figure out that didn't also create more confusion by calling it advertising. So I don't know what perfect, if you can think of a better word, I would love to hear. No, I appreciate you asking the question, because it's one that we kind of discussed, and when we go through these things, it's challenging to come up with, outside of just saying these are the things that go home in the kids' backpacks.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries.
It's not showing up on there. Mr. Harberts is.
Are we supposed to be voting on here?
We're
I haven't-
controlling it, but it's not showing up on your devices.
No. I haven't seen one yet.
And I've been able to control on and off mic, but I'm not getting anything on the voting.
Yeah. I assume my mic's on.
Yep, your mic's been good.
Yeah,
I think we'll go ahead and continue without
Okay, so no fancy voting this evening.
it.
Item C is to consider reestablishment of a committee to consider requests for renaming the Southeast Football Field. The recommendation is to reestablish a committee to review an application and make a recommendation in February of 2026 regarding renaming the Southeast Football Field. Do we have a motion? Second? Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Item D, consider rescinding previous motion to rotate board meeting locations every month for the 2025-26 school year. The recommendation is to rescind the previous motion made at the October 14th, 2025 meeting. Is there a motion? A second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I would just like to say that I actually do enjoy rotating the meetings. I believe it is very beneficial to our rural communities to not have to travel in, and it's very enjoyable for us to get out and see the schools. I realize it's become a difficult situation, and if it was up to me, I would like to just pare it down, and so it's just the board meeting and still get out and see the community. But that's my personal opinion. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Can we do that by a show of hands, please? So all those in favor? Opposed?
You're in favor. I guess I'm the only opposed.
Any abstentions? Motion carries. On to item 6, our consent agenda. Approve the minutes of the December 9th, 2025 regular board meeting, approve our monthly bills as presented, and approval of the district monthly fiscal statement and fund balance comparison report. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Madam Chair, I
Yes.
would like to remove the board minutes from the consent agenda, please.
So with that, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda minus the minutes?
I would move to approve the consent agenda minus the minutes.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? I don't know that we need discussion on that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. So now we will move to approve the minutes from the December 9th, 2025 regular board meeting. Is there a motion?
Madam Chair, I would like to make a motion. I would like to amend these minutes. We had under item 12, it was new business, item A, under consider acceptance of the 2024-25 district financial audit. There, in the minutes, it just indicates that we took a vote. And we actually had a 12-minute discussion regarding the finance audit. And I would like some information included in that. A statement. I do have a statement here that I would like could be included, or somebody could word it differently. Page, in your packet, it would be page 13. Number 12, new business A, consider acceptance of the 2024-25 district financial audit. It just shows recommendations and motions, but it doesn't show the discussion we had, and it was a 12-minute discussion. Well, the discussion, yes, the discussion, and I'll read you what I would like written in there. And and it doesn't have to say my name, but it says trustees Sharp addressed the board regarding risk management, noting that past history of embezzlement at Goshen County School District Number 1 highlight the need for oversight rather than personal trust. It was noted that the latest financial audit and the WSBA public officer training support implementation of internal controls to safeguard district resources. And it's not, I totally trust Marcy over there. That's not the issue. The issue is internal controls, and even in our public officer training, it tells us we need to adhere to internal controls. And this is more than once that we've had the financial audit mention that we need to address that. Now, how it's addressed is something that the district needs to do, but and we in turn, but I do think it needs to be indicated and that we need to be working on it. So I'm asking for something in there to indicate that we know it's an issue and that we need to address it.
I would second that motion.
Is there discussion regarding the motion?
Vice Chair, chairs. I would make a recommendation with that long of a elaboration in the updated minutes, that all the board members would have an opportunity to review the YouTube video and determine if that language would match up with what is currently on the YouTube before approving those minutes.
Yeah, I think that's totally appropriate. Yeah. Because actually there was discussion there that Superintendent Kramer had that I think would also be beneficial to be included. So I don't think it needs to be one-sided. I think there's more to it. So I don't know how we do that at this level.
Currently, there is a motion on the floor, so you take action on that. And then there can be then a follow-up action to be made that you would table approving the minutes until the next meeting.
till the February meeting.
That can be an option.
Now, can I withdraw my motion?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I
Pardon?
think,
it would be
I think
more
it needs to be
appropriate to
taken
table,
action.
right?
Yeah,
Okay.
but you have the option also against, voting against your own action too. You're not required to
Well,
vote in
sure.
favor of it.
But if you vote against the action, won't that vote the motion down, not table it until the February board meeting?
So they're being needed.
Yeah. Can I amend my motion?
Yes.
Can I amend the motion that I would like the approval of these minutes to be tabled until the next meeting so that we can address that category, that area, and see what we can do? And be happy to do that.
Okay, thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second that amendment.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion? So all those in favor of the amended motion to table the minutes from the December 9th, 2025 regular board meeting until our February board meeting? So all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, sorry, that was a little confusing for me.
Me
Vice
too.
Chair, Chairs.
Yes.
In addition, I'd encourage you to look at the summary of the board work session that's in there on page 7. That is a extended conversation or recountment of the conversation and the input from Stephanie Pickering of McGee Hearn and Pies, and some of Trustee Sharp's comments are noted in that section as well.
In here, in the minutes?
It's the recount. It's on page 7. It's item 1
Oh, maybe I missed some of that.
in regard to the board work session.
Okay.
Trustee Sharp, could you email the entirety of the board your recommended revision to those minutes so that we have time to look at them before the February
Oh,
meeting?
yeah, I've got them on my phone as it
Perfect.
is.
Okay, thank you.
But
Okay,
yeah, I probably missed it over here. I'll look at some of that.
you're okay to move on? Okay. All right, under new business, item A, consider acceptance of certified staff resignations as presented. The recommendation is to accept the resignations and retirements effective at the end of the 2025-2026 school year submitted by Michelle Dobbs, LFL Middle School English, effective as of December 19th, 2025. Gary Glass, TMS THS Instrumental Music, end of the 25-26 school year, and Rachel Fure, Lincoln Elementary Special Education, end of the 2025-26 school year. Is there a motion?
I so move.
A second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Madam Chair, I would just like to say I do appreciate all these folks and hate to see them leave, but I would like to say a special thank you to Gary Glass for coming back and filling in an additional year for us.
Absolutely, and hopefully successfully retiring this time.
I just ask,
That's what we're working on, is getting a long-term sub in place for that to finish out the remainder of the year.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Item B, consider approval of offering a teaching contract for the 2026-2027 school year. The recommendation is to approve offering a teaching contract to Preston Pullman as an instrumental music teacher at the Torrington Middle School and Torrington High School for the 2026-2027 school year, pending certification. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Item C, consider approval of a 2025-2026 employment agreement. The recommendation is to retroactively approve the revised employment agreement issued to Jessica Davis on September 18th, 2025 for the 2025-2026 school year as school psychologist. Is there a motion? Second? Any discussion?
So what if we're talking specifically employee related, we need to adjourn into executive session.
Do you have a desire to enter into executive session? Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Item D, consider approval of amendment to the current contract with Solient Health LLC. The recommendation is to approve an amendment to the current 2025-26 contract with Solient Health LLC for specialized student vision services in the additional amount of $5,000 for 4 additional students, resulting in an amended contract amount of $18,680. This is a general fund reimbursable special education expense. Is there a motion? A second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Item E, consider approval of contracting with Culligan for water softeners at Lincoln Elementary and Torrington Middle School per District Policy 3420, our purchasing guidelines. The recommendation is to approve the purchase, removal, and installation of new water softener systems at Lincoln for $12,950 and TMS for $14,950 in the total amount of $27,900. This is a major maintenance fund purchase. Is there a motion?
So moved.
A second? Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Item F, consider approval of contract for professional development services. The recommendation is to approve contracting with Nice Bike, Mark Sharonbrook, thank you, for August 10th, 2026, back to school keynote speaker professional development services in the amount of $11,000. These are Title II funds. Is there a motion? A second? Any discussion?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
only thing I was thinking, I did attend last year or this current school year. And the program was really good. I really enjoyed it. It was a different speaker. But I've wondered if there was any way of, and I know this is being as far stretch, any way of putting something back to back for the board on a speaker, a motivational speaker like this to get us in a different frame of mind.
I was wondering, I was just trying to figure out where you were saying on
Using
back
the-
to back on something, but now I understand what you meant.
Using the same speaker and utilizing him as we have him here to do something that would be beneficial for
Board work session.
a work session for us to get us more.
Kevin, has that been something that,
I don't know if this is the right guy. I'm just saying, I don't know if anybody else is interested. But getting to do those kinds of things makes us, you know.
Mhm, absolutely.
I can't directly answer that question.
I
What-
realize that.
What I would tell you is we're booking him now because his schedule is
Sure.
ridiculously busy. This is gonna be a Monday though, so, and like you guys are always welcome to come. I mean, I understand that that's not realistic for a
Well,
lot of you.
I
as
did. I
well, but-
enjoyed it.
But truly, if you can come to this, he comes very, very highly recommended. One of our principals actually recommended him and has seen him in person a couple times. And there's a lot of conferences I've been to where his book and him have been referenced. So I think he comes very, very highly recommended. that's certainly something, his wife does his booking, so I can certainly ask that question. I don't know what that would entail, but
And I don't know what it would entail for costs, and it may be not be reasonable.
We can always ask the question. Never hurts to ask.
is there a
And
desire?
I may be the only one interested, and that's the other issue, so.
We can certainly ask. It never hurts. It's always worth asking and seeing what that might be as a possibility. We can do some more research. Not a problem.
Discussion.
I just have a hard time remembering what was Title II funds again?
Those are funds specifically around professional development and things like that. So like in this case, when we're bringing in a speaker, and then I know some principals have expressed the want to maybe use the book as like a follow-up to some of the, like him coming. As I was gonna say, Mr. Kramer has. So that's essentially what they're used for.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
I apologize. Can we please do that by a show of hands? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Were there any abstentions? That was everyone. We're good. Okay, the motion carries. Item G, consider approval of proposed revision to policy 41-16-60, 42-25, public solicitation advertising, renaming and renumbering. The recommendation is to approve the proposed revision to policy and renumber and rename to District Policy 3145, public solicitations in schools as presented on introduction and first reading. Is there a motion?
I so move.
A second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Item H, consider approval of proposed revisions to District Policy 9351, authorized signatures and check writing. The recommendation is to consider the proposed revisions as presented on introduction and first reading. Do we have a motion? A second? Any discussion?
Madam Chair, even though I was on the policy committee, I wasn't successful in getting what I wanted, so I'm asking here. On paragraph 1, if everybody has a chance, it's on page 61. The only thing that I was looking at there is I really would like to see the Wyoming statute numbered listed. I think makes it more easier for the staff and the community to access the Wyoming statute and to understand where this policy is based off of. And I do know other districts do that kind of stuff, and I just think it's a good habit to get into. And I know that's a petty thing for me. And then on the second paragraph, the last line has been crossed out. It says overall responsibility for safekeeping of the check writing machine, keys, and plate is delegated to the superintendent, and that's being removed. And I really do think, because of due diligence and oversight and internal controls, that we should have a statement that indicates who the overall responsibility is for those the facsimile signatures. Those are legal signatures that the chairman and the clerk and the treasurer is trusting the district with, and they should have some reasonable assurance that their signatures are being maintained in a reasonable and controlled manner. And I just feel that that's important for a trust issue. And it's not that we don't trust the staff, it's just a matter of, we need to know who's responsible for them. And so in the past policy, it had the superintendent. I mean, that doesn't have to be the case, but I just think that statement needs to be put back in.
Thank you, Trustee Sharp. In regards to the state statute, the conversation that was had in policy committee,
Yes.
just to let everyone else on the board know why that was not added in, was the state statute numbers do change.
They do.
So we would have to update that policy anytime that happens.
Yeah.
So that would just be an additional hoop for our board to have to jump through. I don't remember where we landed on the statement of responsibility in that committee.
Well, it
Do
looks
you?
like it's
I
been
do remember
crossed
that
off, so.
conversation, but
I don't either. One thing I would, all board members know that if you plan to vote against something coming out of a committee that you're on, please make it clear in committee that
Okay,
you are going to vote against it so we
Sure.
can have further discussion. Because as we move through committee on this, I did not anticipate any dissenting votes from any of the committee members that were there.
no
I
problem.
think
I
that,
I can do that.
discussion is really, really important to have in committee when board members are there.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion?
I'm just bringing it up. This is a first reading. It's, I'll fight for it at the next committee meeting because it looks like I'm on policy committee, so everybody else could, and share with whoever, if they have a feeling one way or the other. And it's just something that, I look at other school districts and I see that they are including the state statutes. And it does make it a lot easier when, even as a trustee, when I'm looking at a policy, it's like, I don't have to go dig through and find it. It's there for me. I can look it up.
And trustee
Madam
chairs,
Chair.
if I may, I want to make it clear, board members, you certainly can reserve that right to vote against, but I would just, for those committee members that are there, just having it
Yeah,
known that you plan to vote against it, which is
And-
perfectly your right to do, and which I completely understand and understand your reasoning and thought process. It just helps to have
and
that.
I'm
so
more
we
than
can-
happy to, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm more than happy to do that. I just figure when I bring it up and it's not accepted, then you pretty much know that I'm gonna speak up here. But I can be very verbal and tell you about it too. Be happy to.
Thank
So-
you. Is there, oh,
so-
sorry. Val.
So there's no motion here, I don't believe.
We do have, we're in the discussion portion, so we have
Yeah.
a motion and a second on the table. Are you saying you don't have a motion
I don't
to
think there
amend the
needs to be a
policy?
motion because it's going back to the policy
Yeah,
committee.
this is
for
the
another
first
dis-
reading, so
for
there will
another
be
read.
time for revisions.
And
Yes, yes. Trustee Goulart, did you have?
I was just gonna ask if there was some official method by which we needed to approve it and send a recommendation to policy committee.
I think you would vote on the current motion that's in place for as it is existing. And then that discussion can certainly take place without additional motions unless the board felt it necessary. But I think in most cases, anytime we have a first reading, it does go back to the committee because there have been cases where even on a unanimous vote or without discussion, we find something through committee members and the committee members bring it up and say, hey, we need to make this change before the second reading also. So it's a good preliminary, it's good practice, and it's a good question also.
So no matter what.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
I,
Opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Item I, consider approval of rescinding District Policy 5105, student representatives to the school board. The recommendation is to approve rescinding District Policy 5105. Do we have a motion? Thank you. Is there a second? Any discussion?
Trustee chairs, if I may,
Absolutely.
the reason for rescinding at this point in time is we do not currently have anything in place through committee to replace this. And there's certain things within this policy that have some timelines that we would not be following. And so that is the reason to request rescinding. We do have some ideas and had a good discussion on some alternatives, but putting those together and having something in front of the board based on this short time frame with the policy committee just wasn't feasible. And rather than having a replacement that we weren't satisfied with and then or ignoring current policy, that's why the recommendation for rescinding that policy is coming before you tonight.
And so what, would it be something along the lines of student representatives, or what would it be?
We're kind of there was some fruitful discussion that kind of talked about a varying different ideas from not just a singular person to possibly a leadership group, to possibly some other ideas in regarding how those presentations can kind of mesh together and all of the things that we kind of were working on. It was a pretty extensive conversation. The concern with currently the student representative makeup right now is there was a lot of recruitment being done by the principals, and then those individuals who we were having as student reps were stretched a lot of different directions. And so it wasn't achieving the goal that I think it initially had in mind. And so we kind of want to go back and see what is the goal of the board in regards to student reps? What's that going to look like, and how can we get that more refined to get really what we wanted to be at when that was put in place?
What kind of timeline?
It kind of depends on the further discussion in committee, and then also it is an admin topic. And so I think I would say in the next month or two, I would expect a policy to come before the board.
Is there any further discussion?
Madam Chair, we would still keep the representatives we currently have, or are we
They
done
were
with them?
done as of December.
Oh, okay.
Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Next is item 8, board topics for discussion. Is there anything anyone would like to discuss this evening?
Madam Chair, just as for transparency's sake for the board, and not to throw anybody under the bus, that's not the intentions at all. I just wanted to let everyone know that I have asked Mr. Kramer, Superintendent Kramer, for electronic access to the front door. I'm not asking for central, just the front door, so we don't have to stand out as board members, so we don't have to stand out on the street waiting to get let in. When we could just have, because the staff is able to flash their badge and get in. And so to the main lobby, I'm not asking for central. So I haven't asked for that if as a convenience, nothing else. And not to get into central, but it lets you in and let you get to the restroom, those kinds of things when you come. So it's a convenience thing, and I just want everybody to know that I asked for it. I don't know that I'm going to get it, but I asked. So I just wanted everyone to know.
Thank you. Who makes that decision? Is that a superintendent decision?
It could be a board decision. It could be however we want to kind of move forward with
He's
it.
never
I
had this
honestly.
request.
Not to put anyone on the spot or anything, but
No, and I don't mean. Well, sometimes it's windy, it's cold, it's this year it's not snowy, but I'm coming during the day and the doors are locked, and it's like last year it would be snowy, rainy, whatever, and it's like, I just like to get in.
Is the
And-
keys the same for the front as the back doors and everything else?
So we would have the ability to have as open or as closed as anyone would prefer. So
And I
yeah,
mean,
there's an ability to have access to one door or multiple
Yeah,
doors. as
I mean, I've
understand it.
stood there and I have staff members that are letting me in and they're looking at me like, you forgot your key? They don't know I don't have a key. So that's interesting. But yeah, anyway, it's whatever. If we don't get it, it's whatever. But I'll just ring lots.
thank you. Any other items for discussion?
I was just wondering, if we could, we had an email from a parent about our school lunches. And I was wondering if we ever responded to that parent. There were concerns about the nutritional values and of some of the products we're serving and on our lunch menus. And I was just wondering if we responded to that parent, because I hadn't seen anything on it.
Was that sent to the entirety of the school board?
Pardon me?
Was that sent to the entire school board?
Yes.
Oh, I never check my junk mail. Do you know if that was?
This would be news to me.
Oh,
I would always encourage you, if you see something, feel free to email me directly, because I will have to search also to see if I can find that, because I am not aware of an email, but I would be more than happy to respond. I'll ask you some more information here a little bit later, and then
Yeah,
I
because
then I'll be able
to
to access it.
everybody, so
Yeah.
I was just wondering if we ever responded.
Yep. That would be, I have not responded because it is not in my inbox, so I'll have to do a search for that. But I'll ask you afterwards if you can give me the contact if you have it.
And we can check with Chairwoman Mueller as well. She's usually extraordinarily good about getting back on emails and following through. So without her here, I'm not sure on that one, but thank you, Trustee Alexander. Are there any further discussion items?
I emailed this, and I don't know if this is the appropriate place to bring it up, but I would like to see about getting a committee of the board together to discuss, well, first of all, I've been working on the superintendent evaluation, like redoing that, and I need some help with that. And then the possibility of this same committee discussing a 360 evaluation. And it's something I've been asking for a while. And so I'm not necessarily, would we institute it, but I would like the committee to discuss it and see if it's something that as a committee, we would want to take forward and move forward with. So I don't know how that works, but that's what I'm asking for.
If there would be any volunteers that would like to be part of a committee, I think Trustee Steinberg.
I would be on that committee.
How many do you need?
Up to 4, not more than 4.
Well, right. But if you don't get your 4, I'll do it. But if you get others, that's fine.
You better.
Well, I'm gonna do, yeah.
She volunteered herself
I
by
have
bringing
I have
up.
2 so far, so any other takers?
Chairwoman Mueller also volunteers to sit on that committee.
Oh, great. Does she know that?
She does know that. That's what happens when you miss meetings.
That's right.
Oh,
That's
I'm
right.
gonna have to watch
I've
which
told.
meetings I miss.
Okay.
Hmm.
I appreciate that. I just need more eyes on the evaluation and more ideas because I'm out of ideas. You want to be on
So the
that?
board?
Okay,
Yeah.
Great, thank you.
Okay. And can we arrange a time for that committee to meet via email? Does that work okay? Okay. Okay. Well, we can meet via Zoom. Is that what you mean? Yeah, we don't have to meet in person necessarily. Okay, are there any other items for discussion this evening? Okay, the 2 that were kind of passed along to me, one was just the reminder that Chairwoman Mueller is working to get a meeting together with our local legislators, the board, and and some of our admin team to discuss the recalibration that's coming up. I think she's still trying to finalize a date because not everyone was able to attend. So keep an eye out on your emails for that one. There's also been a little bit of discussion about having a work session that is specific to strategic planning relating to our budget. If that is something the entirety of the board would be interested in doing, sort of a proactive planning as we head into budget, especially regarding some of these changes that could potentially really impact our district. So if that's something the whole board would be interested in getting a work session together, we could maybe have Superintendent Kramer send out a poll. Is that the easiest way? Generally, we've done that in the past, haven't we, where you find a time instead of us trying to decide on one tonight?
So those 2 things that you just said, is that
Mhm.
after the fact? Sure, meeting on Thursday.
Where are you looking? Oh, the A.
Yeah.
So the work session would be separate from that. That is the one, and I think that date is still kind of on the books, but I know that one of the legislators wasn't able to make that date. So
Try and look at some options.
So that date might be a little bit up in the air on item A under future meetings.
Yeah, I would pencil that in, but there is the possibility of movement on that to accommodate one of the legislators.
Madam Chair, so the second work session would be post recalibration. Right?
Not necessarily, because post recalibration would be March. I mean,
The
when are we expecting?
So the work session would be post the recalibration, the select committee's initial meeting on the 22nd and 23rd, where we'll have a better idea of what that bill could potentially look like going into the session.
But no final answers regarding recalibration.
No, and other
correct?
things could change within that bill too between that time, but it narrows that scope. So we don't necessarily have to go line by line on the 236 pages, I believe. Yeah.
No one
Because that
will
would
agree
be-
to a work session that is that long.
Right, exactly. And so that's the idea, is to allow the select committee to reduce some of those proposals and then start to address them individually.
Any more items to discuss this evening?
Well, I just wanted to remind everyone, there is that, on January 22nd, 23rd in Cheyenne, now I'm not gonna be able to say who, it's some type of recalibration committee
It's the select committee's
Select
recalibration.
committee.
Yep. Mhm.
that is meeting for 2 days for sessions. And, I believe I'm gonna try and go to that. Not that it'll be way over my head, but maybe I'll catch half of it or something. And then there's, I think the meetings for the February 22nd and 23rd are coming up in Cheyenne as well. I believe Kate and Kelly and I went to those last year. And, I know I enjoyed those and come up with a lot of good information. So if anybody has a chance, I would recommend those.
WSBA.
It's WSBA and it's their legislative, update of what's going on through the legislature.
Anything else to discuss this evening? All right, so in regards to future meetings, we did discuss A little bit, but keep that February 4th date penciled in for a work session
And that's a
meet
Wednesday.
with our local legislators, yes.
Yeah.
The next regular school board meeting will be on Tuesday, February 10th, 2026 at 6 p.m. And then C, the annual WSBA Legislative Forum will be Sunday, February 22nd, 2026 from 2 to 4 p.m. at the Cheyenne Little America. Pre-registration is required, so I'm assuming get a hold of Lorene if you would like to attend that. All right, and we are adjourned.